Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I'm, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I am joined by my Myron.
Hey, folks, welcome to another show. This Rumble show is packed full of all kind of different stuff today. How'd you like it, Nick? It was our favorite pay-per-view of the year, good and bad.
Yeah. We're going to dive into that. We're going to break down our thoughts on the Royal Rumble, of course. Before people ask, let's go ahead and get at least this part out of the way. We are going to discuss the Vince situation that has all gone down since our last recording. Listen, it's going to be intentionally, we're going to put it at the very end of the show. So if it's something that you don't want to hear, look, it's going to be totally separated from everything else. Literally will be the last thing we discuss. So I just want to make that preface. Like, look, we are going to talk about it, but like after we do the last set of plugs for YouTube and the podcast platforms, we're going to talk about it when we come back after that. So if you get to that part of the show in about, if I had to guess, about 50 minutes or so, when you get to that part of the, when we do that, if you don't want to hear the Vince conversation, you can jump out from there. I totally get it. It's not the best thing to be talking about for sure.
Yeah.
But look,
difficult subjects.
Very, very difficult. But look, there's going to be a lot of stuff. We are going to discuss the Rumble. Look, some more stuff has come out about Netflix that I wanted to dive into a little bit. Some stuff about AEW and ratings and attendance, which is not, I know everybody thinks it's the cool, sexy thing to talk about at times. But look what everybody's talking about. We're going to talk about Taylor Swift.
Yes, Taylor Swift.
Yes, we are. We are going to talk about Taylor Swift. And then we're going to talk about where we're going to be this weekend. Packed weekend for sure. Lots of cool things. Look, there's probably going to be a breakdown, Myron. If I had to guess, somewhere over on our Patreon page, patreon.com/tappedoutpod. Of course, at youtube.com if you're subscribed there as well. But look, the Patreon, look, we've been adding some audio. We've been some new stuff. And then, look, we tell you, the reason why you want to be a Patreon member, by the way, so when we complete recording this episode, I want to be joined by Heath and record another episode. It's going to be a pilot episode for a Georgia show.
Ooh.
This week we discussed it and we said, look, this episode I think we're going to release immediately. Just to it's an introduction pilot episode. Going forward, we're going to put that behind the paywall for a few days before it releases out to the masses, because we're going to space this show and that show apart, so they're not back-to-back days type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, but Myron, back to your original point. The Royal Rumble went down this past week. I'll let you share some of your thoughts first, as far as did you enjoy it?
I really enjoyed it. I think one of the biggest surprise was no Okada. And I don't think we're going to get Okada. People were saying, let's watch this Pro Wrestling Tees store, because they're not taking his shirts down. I don't think he'll ever be in WWE. But we got the best surprises ever. I was really surprised when Michael Cole said that here's Naomi, the former TNA Women's Champion, until Jordynne Grace came out. And Jordynne Grace showed out and looked terrific. I think she surprised a lot of people. Honestly, I thought the women did a much better job than the men this year.
100%.
But there was a reason for that. They got that great premiere from Jay Cargill. They had that great spot. Jay Cargill got the biggest pop of the night from anybody. Anybody and any entry to the Royal Rumble, Jay Cargill got the biggest pop of anybody.
Pause.
Yes.
Would you argue she looked like more of this, and this is messed up, and I'm fully aware of this. That moment, just her stepping out to make her entrance, made her look like a bigger star than she ever did in AEW the entire time she was there.
Jesus Christ, yes.
Not less to mention what happened inside the ring.
Yes. That whole, she throwing Nia Jax out, even though she had trouble getting Nia Jax up, which, Hogan had trouble getting Andre up. Let's be honest. He got him up. But then that spot where her and Bianca Belair were pressing people and staring down while pressing people, that's probably the wrestling shot of the year, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Women's Royal was terrific. The Men's Royal Rumble was going together for one face-off, one whole face-off, Cody and Punk. That face-off, and then right before it happened, Punk gets hurt. They build the entire match to that one face-off, and then they get hurt. The rest of the show was filler. The four-way dance, filler. The Kevin Owens Logan Paul match was filler. I could have cared less. I'd already forgotten
I
about it.
actually enjoyed that spot though. I actually thought the ending was very, very good because both characters stayed in there, like they were true to their characters, but we weren't quite. In my opinion, you shouldn't have been. They weren't quite ready to move on from Logan being champion. Kevin Owens like doesn't need it if he's going to be feuding with him. I thought that match was done very well, and anybody can like try to. It's my opinion. And for the record, that's my new favorite saying. Look, it's my opinion. It is. It's only that
About professional wrestling, you have an opinion, not a fact.
Correct. Yes. By the way, I agree with the men's. The men's Rumble was literally designed to. I thought there was some really cool stuff that happened in there. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
So now we have heard Braun Breaker was literally inserted into the spot that was supposed to be Brock Lesnar.
Yes.
And they didn't even change what they were going to do. Like a lot of times they'll say, hey, we're going to give him his number, do this. No, they were like, literally go out there and we're going to let you do what we had planned for Brock Lesnar, essentially.
Did a pretty good job, if you ask me.
Very good job. How about, because look, at one point, I'm going to ask, we're going to get in some of the follow-up down the road, but I'm going to jump at one now. Him and Gunther's interaction. The rumor was Brock Lesnar was supposed to face Gunther at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental title. Do they just pull the trigger and let Braun go into this match?
Oh, that's a tough one to come off. Oh, man.
You want to make a guy?
Well, you make the hell out of a guy. He's doing so good in NXT. He's got that really weird tag team going on with the old Baron Corbin. What are they, the Wolf Dogs or the Wolf?
But you've got you've got that whole time between now and Mania. You've got what 70 whatever it was days to end that, to get into the, he faces Gunther. If he were to beat, think about that. If he were to beat Gunther, like he's a made dude.
Bring him in, have him face off on the Imperium, have him start working through some people. I think it makes a lot more sense to put the Intercontinental title on him than Brock Lesnar.
If that's where they were going, right? Yeah.
Yeah. You can make him between now and Mania. Gunther's already had the title, longer than anybody else. Gunther is so damn believable, man. He's just looks like a champion. He acts like a champion. Gunther became my favorite.
Hold on, I'm going to ask you this. I heard a pitch from somebody on another podcast that it was, I can't remember, Eric's or Jeff, something, whatever. They were like, can you imagine you don't beat Gunther and you don't beat Roman until they go to that Berlin show? And you end up having Gunther face Roman going into Berlin. Both Roman hasn't been beat at that point. I think it's literally weeks before he would pass Hogan. Just a couple weeks.
Wow.
Gunther would have this massive run as Intercontinental Champion that he hadn't been beaten, because at that point it would have been a massive stretch too. Can you imagine the tickets they could sell going into Berlin, into Germany, and saying, this is the match we're going to give you? Either one thing's going to happen. They were like, make it title for title, and it's literally either Gunther's going to lose his Intercontinental Championship, and that long reign's going to end, or Roman's going to lose just a couple weeks before he would catch Hogan.
One streak ends.
One streak will end. Correct.
No interference.
Well, the problem is that's what you're going to get. You're going to get interference.
Oh, God. Will you stop that? Please put Roman in a steel cage. I'm so tired of the damn interference. I'm so tired of Solo Sikoa.
You mean they've gotten you to the point where you're ready for him to lose?
I'm just ready for him to be in a steel cage where I don't have to see all this stuff.
You're ready for him to get beat because you're tired of the interference. You want to see him get beaten, and that's where we're coming into. Like, look,
they work me.
They do.
I got
so
worked.
Cody wins, but yet they made it very clear at the end of the Rumble he was facing Roman Reigns. He's chosen Roman Reigns until the next night. Seth pleads his case.
Oh, that
we're going to come back because there's a lot of bouncing around, and I understand that.
That was so good. That promo was so
very good promo.
Oh,
by the way, okay, let's finish that one first. That thought, and then I'll come back. Seth at least planted the seed for Cody to go, I'll think about it till there's doubt. My question to you was, do we only plant that seed because Rock's not ready to commit to Mania yet? Because if Rock commits versus Roman at Mania, you're getting that one. And now you've at least set the table for why would Cody accept and go after Seth instead? Well, we just set the table just in case.
All the tables are set, man. I'm so excited. If Punk comes back, Punk doesn't able to come back, all this goes on. We got Rock coming back. We got Rock not coming back. We got Roman possibly losing. We got.
Has there ever been a time going into WrestleMania that there wasn't it? Like, look, from the outside looking in, that the table just doesn't seem like it's set at all.
But you got so many different possible settings. You don't know what's going to happen. You want to tune in and see more. They got me.
Everything, I feel like everything they wanted to do has been completely messed up with the potential possibility of a Rock coming in, Brock and that whole situation, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then, of course, Punk getting injured, like completely messed, because we just all assumed Seth was going to face Punk. So, okay, that makes it simple, right? Well, with all these moving parts now, it's like, maybe not. I mean, it's a possibility.
Imagine the cards between now and WrestleMania. I want to see every single show. Dude, we got that big NXT pay-per-view this weekend, too.
We won't catch. I mean, we'll have to watch it after the fact.
I have to watch it. I'll have to be catch up.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, man, there's so many. So, by the way, there's if I always joke with this. I mean, clearly I saw the video now at this point where Drew actually hurts the arm, the tricep for Punk. So it's torn, blah, blah, blah. Everybody knows my statement on CM Punk. I think in general, he's overrated. Hell of a promo on Monday.
Yeah.
I will. And look, by the way, Drew's response, cold as shit's what it was. I'm not a spiritual person, but I prayed for this and it happened. Like, dude, I mean, come on, that's some cold blood.
Punk makes him better. Drew is boring as shit, but you get him with Punk and all of a sudden he talks a lot better. It works better. It makes you hate him. It's the perfect mix for me.
Yeah, I really dug the promo by Punk. I thought it was really well done. Look, this is where you talk people into the seats and they give you the match to deliver is the hopes. But yes, wrestlers, you talk people into the seats. And I just sit here and told you that's where they're clicking right now. Everybody likes to think, oh, the matches are great. Look, I'm not saying the matches aren't great, but they're talking you into the building. Seth and Cody and then like with Cody's promo part beforehand and then, Drew and Punk. I mean, like, look, they're getting you there. They're selling it all. By the way, how about this? The fucking week prior to that, I was talking about how good the Gunther Seth promo was.
How about it? There's a Rhodes helping the wrestling business get used to talking again. Oh, Dusty Rhodes. If you want to study how to talk anything about wrestling, I was working on the side project the other day, and I studied Dusty Rhodes videos, just practicing talking to everyday people. Because nobody did it better. Nobody reached people better than Dusty Rhodes. Now we got a Cody Rhodes doing it. Now we got Seth Rollins hitting people right in the feels.
Mm-hmm.
Now folks want to watch wrestling again.
Look, we haven't even discussed, by the way, Bayley in depth. Like, she wins the Rumble. Now massive. Here's the thing. I always joke with somebody I was joking with somebody the other day when I said, I don't know what they're doing, and that's awesome, and I love it.
Did she turn on her teammates?
Well, look, they announced that at Elimination Chamber they're having a match to determine who Rhea Ripley will face. And I'm like, okay, well, does that mean she's already chosen? Bayley said that she would make her announcement on Friday on Smackdown. Okay, well, does it have to be EO if they're having an Elimination Chamber match to determine who's facing Rhea at WrestleMania? Did they give it away? Did they spoil it, ahead of time? Like, is she going to challenge EO instead? Because here's the thing. Maybe her take is real simple. I think I can beat you easier than I can beat her. I don't know. Look. But then again, dude, like we're at the same time, we don't even know if Rock's coming back, right? Is Rock going to fight Roman? And then it's like, do you get the belt off of Cody, etc. All this, there's so many other layers. But I want to ask you before we move on, if you were Netflix and you were TKO WWE, would you pull that? Because there's two schools of thoughts. One, do they try to help sugarcoat some of the dark cloud that is out there right now, and do they just go like, look, dude, just throw Rocket Mania now, let's use him, let's try to get a lot of momentum and a lot of positive, let's get with the Rock doing Mania? Or does Netflix kind of bump them and go, why don't you save that bad boy till next year when WrestleMania is on Netflix?
So you got a two-way street here. You're like, okay, we're going to buy a hurt product that we've already paying for. If I was Netflix, I would say, hey, go ahead and put him on now. Make things look better for what we're going to inherit. It'd be a better product next year if you're making it look better right now with a Rocket Mania. Saving him for your day. You've already got that contract for what you're getting. You've already got that contract for global worldwide. And it doesn't really matter because you don't have the U.S. contract.
Mine's That's a total PR move. It's not investment bump. To me, it's a PR bump.
Yes, but it's a PR bump that you need going into your contract with WWE. So go ahead and pop it now, so you inherit a better product, a better looking product. You don't want a bad public relations. A bad public relations product when you start your contract with WB next year, because you're getting Raw. You're not going to get WrestleMania in the United States.
No,
you're going to get WrestleMania in the outside.
But the growth, to me, I argue the Netflix growth is worldwide, and that's where they will have the PLE. They will have Mania next year. It's just a school of thought. I'm just saying. I'm not saying either way is correct. Because look, like while we're discussing it, let's talk a little bit about look, the Netflix announcement was made obviously prior to last week's recording, but a couple things have come out. Thoughts have kind of run through our brains, and we're just going to follow up on it real quick. We're not going to dive into it like we did a little bit last week. More specifically, we did discuss the 5-year out, the 10-year extension, that kind of stuff. Why is the 5-year number? I dug into this a little bit and why do I think the 5-year number matters? Well, just for the record, that 5 years runs behind the 5-year USA deal for Smackdown and the deal with CW and NXT. So they will be the last connection that you get as far as your contracts running up. I think it matters because down that road, if Netflix is happy, this is a big caveat. If Netflix is happy with the numbers that they're pulling and whatever metrics they have, I think Netflix metrics are by minutes watched or something is the way they do it. It's not like how many times it was viewed. It's minutes watched of a program. That's how they judge it. I know Suits just broke the record that was held by The Office or something. I was reading that somewhere. And so what I'm wondering is they already globally, not domestically here in the U.S., but in North America, but outside of North America, they pretty much have it locked up for the most parts. They have everything. They have NXT, they have Raw, they have SmackDown, and the PLEs. I think some very smart people are looking at these two sets of numbers, what Raw does domestically and what they do internationally with PLEs and all the above. And in 5 years, I think that determination becomes, if you're happy with it, they just take it all. They just take NXT, they take SmackDown, the PLEs, and everything, and make Netflix their home. And why does WWE do it? Some smart people out there believe in the next 5 years, cable TV's got a fork stuck in it because it's done.
Well, it probably is done. It's also Netflix's toe, and I don't know if they've got any other live television shows. Is this their first foray into live television?
Comedy and some F1 stuff. That's it.
Okay, so they're getting into the live television business. They're going to see how they do with a big program like Raw. They're going to see how they do, how they can produce it. This is the same as the old closed circuit television. Remember that? when Raw was getting in, or not Raw, but the old pay-per-views were doing that, when you'd have to go to a movie theater to watch WrestleMania, or instead of waiting on it to come out on VHS. It's one of those things where you've got all these opportunities to try different marketplaces and see how this works out. And if Netflix is able to do this successfully, how many people will tune in, go from watching Raw on television to watching Raw on Netflix? Because it's a lot harder right now, folks, to get cable television than it is to get Netflix, if you ask me.
Well, look, I mean, there was a time. Yes. Sorry, don't want to break out in song and run people off. There was a time, and literally we are at the danger here. If I can watch NXT on the CW app, I'll still be stuck with cable. That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying, no, it's not that one. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying the only reason for a long time I kept any cable whatsoever was because Raw was on USA.
Yeah.
So it's moving off.
Yeah.
I will be blunt. And people are like, oh, what about foot? I'll figure it out. I don't know there's a reason to have cable for me if all of the wrestling moved off of cable and was on a streaming service like Netflix.
College sports.
But here's the thing. By the time it's coming around, dude, ESPN app, you can sign up during college football season and watch it. Because most of the good games, because we're SEC fans, they're on the ESPN app. CBS, yeah, but guess what? I already have Paramount Plus, and if they air the college football games on there, I don't need it either.
Or I could go over to your house or Billy's house or go to a bar and watch them.
Right. Yeah. If there was a game that was bad and that you wanted to watch bad enough, there's a way you could figure it out.
Okay, so we're looking at that.
Okay. Sorry, I'm completely
cable
sidebarred. Would
just be for the wife then.
Mm-hmm.
And she's watching a lot more streaming stuff. She's watching all her Jeff Lewis shows on streaming now. So
yeah, I think, like, for example, when we look at this past Raw, they were over 2 million hour one, right at 2 million on hour two, and like 1.7 roughly for hour three. Netflix looks at that, and what they see that most, like, we don't, we see like, oh, by the way, that was a good number on cable because, oh, by the way, football's over, folks. So we're going to go back to these decent numbers, right? What I see is Netflix looking at it and going, so you're meaning to tell me we can have 2 million to 1.7 to 2 million people sitting down for 3 hours and just watching all at the same time. They're all going to be sitting there and watching this. And then there's probably going to be a trickle effect of some people going back and watching it again, or people can watch it later. It'll add on. And for 52 weeks, we're going to get that many people watching. And they're like, yep.
Now, how are the commercials going to work out for people who don't pay, people who pay for the commercial-free Netflix?
Listen, I made this reference last week, and I tell people all the time. You know, when they're taping Raw and we watch it on TV and USA runs a commercial?
Yeah,
they're still wrestling. Now you're just going to see that shit. Remember the guy usually dives out to the floor and he knocks somebody down and there's chaos, or they're both down and who's KO? Can he come back? And they go to commercial break. There's going to be a headlock or something. Who? I mean, like, dude, I'm like, it's not like WWE's not going to do anything any different because they go to commercials now and the guys don't go, boop, and sit down and wait. And, oh, we're coming back from commercial. And then they start wrestling again. It just doesn't work that way.
So the referee's, that little mic in the referee's ear, and he's like, hey, start again. I mean, I know that 10, 9, 8.
Yeah. That's it. So, I mean, that's neither here nor there, right? That's the whole thing. I just think, like, there were some smart people on both sides between Netflix and WWE because it's a win-win in my take. Yeah. Locked up guaranteed money because I think Netflix is going to be happy. I could be wrong. I think they're going to be happy.
We'll know in 5 years.
We're going to know in 5 if they opt out, which I don't think they will. I think they're going to go more in on it, and I think they're going to get more of the content, in my opinion. Because, look, Peacock doesn't have all of the history. Because we were talking about it. If they could literally get everything worldwide, they could roll out Mid-South for a few months and then pull it back off. And then they could roll out Memphis. They could pull it off.
Because that makes it more special and makes people want to see it.
Yeah, it's not just there. Right.
You
it's only going to be there for 3 months, or it's going to be there for whatever. Like, if you want to watch it, you better watch it now. And guess what?
Tricks me into watching it.
Tricks you into watching it, and they're getting more time out of you. Exactly. So anyway, but it's all about timing, man. And look, we're coming into the big game. You can't say legally, you can't say the big words anymore, right? You can't say the name apparently. So the big game's coming up, and then look, it's the last time you're going to be able to get in on NFL football, but they probably will have the UFL. They're probably going to, obviously they have baseball, basketball, all of that, all the betting. But we look at our house, Super Bowl party. It's all about squares and things like that. But prop betting seems to be the hot thing now. And where do you go, Myron, to grab that at?
Oh, there's only one place, Nick, and let's have a look at it.
You still working on this?
It's 2 minutes to kickoff. Who do I pick?
2 words, Prize Picks. It's so easy. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. It's just you against the numbers. Simply pick the over-under on 2 or more players, and that's it. You can win up to 10 times your money in just one day. Join over 150,000 people who found a better way to play. Download the Prize Picks app today and get your first deposit match up to $100.
That's right, man. Check out our friends over at Prize Picks. Look, you can't go wrong, man. We have a blast. I'm an NFL guy, of course, so I'll probably lay off a little bit during basketball and baseball.
Use, man. So easy to use. You just go to the app store, whatever kind of phone you have, get the app. It's easy to play with. They match your first deposit up to $100. Whoa! You're talking about making some cash.
Yeah, that's right, man. Well, look, we're also following up on some talk lately about cash and the lack thereof in some departments. But look, I don't want to. By the way, when we talk about AEW, like I'm not doing it from a negative connotation. It seems like sometimes, really, it's like some of it is like, man, I wish they would do this so they could make more money or they could be more profitable. So, like, I don't think they're dying and they're not going away anytime soon.
I think they've made. I think they need more people in the business and less people in the creative. I think they. Sadly,
no, I think they need the right people in business and they need the right people in creative.
Yes.
Yes.
God, please, wrestlers, forgive me, but they've got too many wrestlers involved in the business side. And it's bad for business. WB is thriving right now because they've got a board of directors that now only has one wrestling person on it. The Rock. Am I incorrect with that, Nick?
I don't know. He's the only wrestling person, per se, in that sense. But
that makes good decisions for how things are done.
I think that's too high of a level for the conversation. I think what I'm talking about, like, Tony Khan has decided he's like the one-stop shop guy. He's creative. He's the business. He's the financial. He's like all these things. And I'm like, dude, I will tip my cap to him. He's hired a CFO. He's hired so he is bringing some more help on. I'm hoping those changes are the changes that need to be made. And like, look, one of the first one, the new additions have made is they're like, look, by the way, it's going to sound eerily familiar to a decision that was made recently in the WWE. Like, hey, we're going to pull out of some of these smaller markets.
Yeah.
Like we're drawing, in some of these markets, they're drawing nothing. I had a video.
The are still almost as big in the smaller markets. That's the crazy thing.
Well, that's really the obstacle. Is like, I'll get there. Like, we got a video from the collision over the weekend that ran against Rumble, and it was literally like a third full. That was it. It was super empty. I understand. Like, they have a lot of these were booked before they kind of started taking some of the hits they had. So, but you should be about out of this time period now. So, I think. I know the object is like, hey, let's just run bigger towns. They're bigger. The population's bigger. We'll draw more than we do in these smaller towns. And I'm like, if you run big towns and you run a big building, it's probably going to cost you more than it would if you run Savannah. Even a big venue in Savannah is probably not as expensive as a big venue in LA. Makes sense? Yeah. So I think those are things that, now they have some positives. And I think these things are important. Sting's last match in Greensboro. Like, a lot of people pushed back when I said, like, I don't really call Greensboro a large market. I could be incorrect. No. I don't think it is.
But it's a wrestling market.
It is a wrestling market, but I think, look, they're drawing like 19,000, 20,000, depending on when you're listening to this, to that show. But it's a great point. In my opinion, AEW, it's the content that draws, not their brand. They have not built. It did in the beginning. when they were new, yes, everybody wanted to see AEW come to their town. Okay, they've run this loop multiple times at this point.
Remember we went to that show over and it was in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Where they had that arena packed out. They had that massive cage they brought in for that Cody match. Cody and Wardlow.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, that was insane, man. That was like a WBE show, and then all of a sudden
they were hot. Oh, by the way, WWE was down at the time. Remember, we've discussed this on multiple episodes at this point. The issue, though, is what I'm saying is it's the content that when they have a show like the anomaly that people try to use are like Wembley. Okay, dude, they never even ran overseas. So yeah, they did it. And look, by the way, tip my cap. Great, they drew a hell of a house. I'm not pushing that, but they were never there before. Like every time it's the first time, it's always the best. I'm just saying, right? That's what they try to tell you. I don't know if that's true or not.
First wife.
Okay, that's true. So that's not what I meant, but I meant the first time you go to a town, it's always the best. It draws, blah, blah, blah. Look, Sting's drawing 20,000 fans because, look, it's his last match, hypothetically. That's what they say. It probably will be. I'm just being honest, right? We just want to be clear.
I've seen that one before.
We've heard this one before, right? Second of all, though, Sting has decades, and I mean decades of legacy that he's built, that because it's his last match, I think there's probably people coming from everywhere to see this match.
And I'll watch it on TV. I'll be excited to see it.
Yeah, you'll buy the PLE, right? Or their pay-per-view. They're still pay-per-view. Sorry. Here's the crazy thing. I'm becoming the phase of where I'm instead of like struggling to say PLE for pay-per-view, I'm struggling to say pay-per-view, and I'm calling it a PLE. But it's a legit pay-per-view. I think ultimately, like the anomalies is like everybody wants to go, well, they drew 20,000 or they're going to draw 20,000 for Sting's match. All right, well, you drew 1,900 for Collision. Like the anomaly, stop using the anomaly because Sting's last match is bigger than AEW. It could have been literally God knows who could have branded it.
Well, that's like me telling you what I weighed in 6th grade. You know, that's a long time ago and it doesn't mean anything.
No, it's like telling me what you benched when you were at your peak, peak fitness.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I used to bench 350 or something. And then you'd be like, what can you bench now? Well, like, okay, that's, or something. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I'm just.
The problem with AEW is they gave you too much too soon. They satisfied a demand for wrestling by giving you all these shows before they created demand. They did not take the time to build their product before they gave you too much of it. And people were like, oh God, this is on TV every night. You know, how long was it before we got Smackdown, Nick?
Oh, it was a long time before WWE. Yeah, before they had syndication and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
We didn't even get Raw for a million years. So WWE rolled their shows out slowly. They made sure there was a demand. And AEW just came out and just started throwing shows at you. They started running in every town there was. They were excited from all that growth at first. And
well, we discussed the math, Myron. When they started and they had Dynamite. That's one town per week.
Yeah.
That's 52 weeks. So it's 52 markets within. So you could literally I know you don't because certain towns are not, or certain states are not going to run, but think about it. You could go to every state one time.
Yep.
Creates a demand that people drive from far, they come in and they're like, okay, boom, and whatever. Now, I get that you don't do that. I'm not an idiot. But then the second you added your second show, now you're going to 104 towns in a year. So you literally double your coverage in cities. You start repeating some towns too many times, and now people start because look, we do this for WWE here in Atlanta. Like it's like I don't have to go to that one. They'll be back in 6 months or 9 months or whatever. I'll go to that one instead. Especially when it's like okay, if we got a Raw, that either means we might get a pay-per-view for the next one. I'm gonna wait to go to the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So they grew too fast. By the way, I always argue, like, some people just prefer, like, hey, if there's enough wrestling on TV, I'll just watch the wrestling on TV. There's no point in them, like, fighting the crowd, paying for the parking, going to the, and that kind of stuff. But I agree with you. I think they grew faster than their foundation was built.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, go back in, shrink down your buildings. I would rather see on any given week. I would rather see Dynamite, Collision, whatever. I would rather see it on a 3,000 seat venue that's 2/3 full or full than I would a 10,000 seat arena with 2,000 people in it. That's just a bad look.
Yeah, I don't know how every other city is besides Atlanta. I've been in Atlanta most of my life. I grew up around Birmingham, but there's always smaller venues peppered around big cities.
Mm-hmm.
Nice small venues. We have a lovely building here in Gwinnett, smaller than the buildings in Atlanta, that you could run. That's easily to get to. Would look great on television.
I say run the Cobb Energy Center.
Cobb Energy Center is a good one.
It's a couple thousand. I mean, it's like I said, it's probably a 2,000-3,000 seat. I saw ECW there back in the day, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing wrong with it. I think, and by the way, then you have a harder ticket to get because there's less, theoretically. You're going to have the fans who really want to be there, and all of that sound. We know this from indie shows. If you get a massive venue and there's not a lot of pop, the sound doesn't. But if you jam as many people as you can into a smaller venue, sometimes, dude, it is super, super hot.
That's just, look at Southern Fried. Yeah. That venue they run in gets so loud with the crowd.
Yeah,
even a smaller crowd, if they don't draw that well for a show, they blow it out in that venue.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about sound. It's all about making things sound good. And if you're taping in a venue and it sounds great, that level of energy is catching. People want to be there and be involved in that excitement. You can't put a price tag on excitement, and people want to see that kind of stuff. So, and there's one person though I don't think they want to see on television, according to the internet.
All right, so I teased it this week of like, how can we tie Taylor Swift into pro wrestling? I'm like, I got to figure out how to get her in here, because look, there's a couple things out there, and
your middle daughter's a Swiftie, right?
Diehard Swiftie. I personally have seen Taylor Swift multiple times in concerts. I have 3 daughters. I've taken them all to see her, and again, it's staggered out, and it's been multiple times that I've seen her. I will tell you, honestly, as a man who's comfortable in his skin, one of the best concerts I've ever seen. Not saying her music's my cup of tea. I'm not saying it's not my cup on all of them. I'm just saying,
as a performer,
from a performance standpoint, crushes it. Does lots of great things. Anybody who has seen her will agree with me, I'm sure. The problem that we push back is, and how, again, we're going to get there. I promise we'll get to wrestling in a second. I heard some crazy statistics the other day. It was like, people are sick of seeing her. There's some air quotes right here, guys, of seeing her on TV. The average NFL game is like 3 to 4 hours. Colin Cowherd on The Herd on Fox Sports 1 rattled off some statistics. I didn't write them down, but I'm just saying. In one game, he was like, she was on camera for 27 seconds total the entire game. Another game, it was like 30 seconds. Another one, it was like 28. Then it was like the longest up to this point when he did that episode that she had been on camera was 1 minute.
For the whole show, the whole game.
The cuts to her, to the suite, added them up. It was like a minute. It was a little over a minute, he said. It was like literally like 60-something seconds.
And you know why they do that, right?
Yeah.
So they get Swifties to watch the NFL games.
Yeah.
It's an appeal thing.
It is an appeal thing. What doesn't make sense to me is fans bitch about this, but had no qualms to Lakers games showing Mark Wahlberg or, Jack Nicholson Jack Nicholson, Spike Lee at Knicks games. Yeah. And, there's all these Matthew McConaughey, every time he's on the sideline at the University of Texas. Hey, by the way, won't bitch and complain? Didn't hear anybody bitching and complaining when they were showing The Undertaker on the sideline at the University of Texas game. He's walking around, hook 'em horns. I mean, like literally nobody says anything, right?
They're all dudes. I don't know, folks. Why do we have to be so critical of everything in the world? Why is Taylor Swift that big a deal? Why is it? Why she's dating? What's his name? Why
she's supporting her boyfriend?
Why is that?
How about this? Either A, get a girlfriend, or B, get you one who supports you like she does her boyfriend.
My wife supports me, but she doesn't show up at any of the shows. She doesn't go to wrestling shows. She loves supporting me on the podcast, but you don't ever see her. If she were to show up at wrestling shows, when people say, "Well, there's that Myron's wife," what does she say about
when
podcasts?
we ran our show? She was there.
Yes, she was
There's
helping
a
take
difference.
tickets and everything.
Makes a there's
So
a
was
big
your
difference between big difference between what
Were people saying, "Well, look at their wives there. What are they doing? They're taking up tickets and helping things, or being usher." No, folks, get real. Find something to bitch about. Why don't you bitch about the environment? Why don't you bitch about what's wrong with this world? Why don't you bitch about people not being assholes to each other? Okay, there's a lot of things wrong in this world. We don't even care about political parties. There are things wrong in this world that we.
I told my daughter, Myron, this is a get off my lawn like stance.
Yes.
And that, like, I don't want her on my, it was like, this ain't the football I grew up. Okay, well, first of all, I bitch about it ain't the football I grew up on, and it has nothing to do with anybody in the fans. It has to do with all of the rules that have been changed. Bitch about that. That's your football. But how do we tie this to wrestling? Here we go. I have the same pushback when I talk to people about Logan Paul when he came. This ain't wrestling. This is
They're all sound like Jim Cornette.
Right. I'm like, guess what Logan Paul does? He helps grow the business. Taylor Swift being there, guess what they keep saying? The games that she's at, that he's playing in, oh my God, more people watch this game than they have watched a football game in 5 years or 10 years. It's called growing the business.
Are you mad because your wives and kids want to watch football now? Or your daughters want to watch football with you? Are you mad that other people are talking about football that you don't know watch football? Are you mad because you go into the audience and you go into the office and ladies are talking about football now? Or they're giggling about something that happened at a game that wasn't a play. They were giggling about seeing Taylor Swift there.
Here's the thing, and it comes back to, again, we can keep pegging. This goes back and forth with wrestling. What we're talking about here is her getting jerseys to sell. Sorry, you got me there. Her selling
whole topic about insecure men.
Yeah, but, it's just her selling jerseys, right? Travis Kelce selling a ton of jerseys because she's wearing them. It's the growth of the business because you know what? There's a saying in business: if you're not growing, you're dying. And so wrestling, kind of the same thing of like bringing Logan Paul in, bringing somebody like Shaq in. But look, it's been going on since Mania. We have ad nauseum had this conversation. She is doing, hopefully, if she's doing for football what celebrities do for wrestling as well. Grow the product. Everybody likes to think they don't need it. Look, I get the NFL is here. Like they're not here. My hand, if you're not watching, my hand is off the screen. They are that much as far as the by far and away in the United States, the absolute biggest sport in the United States. But you still want to grow.
Imagine Kelsey's next contract. Okay.
Oh, I have a theory. If they win the Super Bowl, he retires. I think him and his brother retire together. I think that just has this vision. That's a whole other topic on a whole other show. But I think if he wins the Super Bowl, him and his brother retire together. He's made plenty of money. He's already a Hall of Famer. He's already got a lot of the Chiefs records. It's not like if he marries her, he's going to be hurting for money. I'm like,
everybody's saying she's just there for the money, and I'm like, his money, and I'm like, shit.
She has enough money. There's a running joke I saw somewhere. If they broke up, she's not writing a song about him. She's gonna buy the Chiefs and trade him or something. Like, dude, that's what's gonna happen. She's got that kind of money. She doesn't need his money at all. It's the total reverse. He's got plenty of between revenue and all these other things he can do. He's gonna be fine. Point being, folks, I'm not about it from a. I'm not coming at it from a pulpit. I'm not standing on anything. I'm just saying, just let it go, dude. It doesn't matter.
Bad Bunny in Puerto Rico how big an audience did that open up?
Yeah.
The WWE pay-per-views and the Latin American audience.
100%. I agree.
Okay.
There's a great example. Bad Bunny had no business being in a wrestling ring.
And he showed everybody up.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. It was all about eyes on the product. And she's doing that. Look, by the way, especially if you're a guy and you have a little girl, I mean, are there worse things to do? Like, if she think about this. Guys are all like, oh man, I wish I had a boy so I could have somebody to watch football with me. You mean, what if Taylor Swift convinces your daughter that football's cool and becomes a fan and starts watching it and gets invested in it like you?
Well, we were both divorced fathers of daughters. We had our daughters with us all the time.
My kids watched wrestling when they were young because we watched wrestling in the house.
Yes.
And guess what? They loved the women. They had women's favorite. Like, I love Trish Stratus, or I love Mickey James. So I'm like, guess what? They need women's role models. And by the way, I will stand on the record. I assure you, look, I don't politically, you may not even agree nor disagree with her on a lot of things. You might. My argument is it doesn't matter because there's a role model that your kids could look up to because she's done it.
To be successful and make money.
Well, there's lots of things. There are worse people that your daughter can say was her role model or whatever. It could be you, but if it's not you, there are worse people than I'm just saying. But look, let's keep it moving, man. We're going to jump into one of our favorite segments of the show this week, the Pro Wrestling Tees shirt of the week. Dude, I went down and dug deep into Pro Wrestling Tees this week, found somebody, and I found him because he's going to be debuting February 17th.
February 17th.
Tannery Row, Buford, Georgia, at Disruptor. That gentleman is one Jake Manning. That is right, Man Scout Jake Manning. I don't do high spots, Jake Manning. I mean, listen, we saw him at a Disruptor show when they ran up in Cornelia. Remember? So Jake Manning, check him out. Look, but he's got multiple shirts on. A bunch of them are really good. Obviously, the link to to his store on Pro Wrestling Tees is in the notes. While you're there, check out one of ours. Check out his as well, and many, many more. And pick up 1, 2, 3, or 4. That's what we always tell you to do over at ProWrestlingTees.com.
This is the perfect time as we segue into independent wrestling. We really need to really talk to people about Pro Wrestling Tees. If you're an independent wrestler, how much should you be on Pro Wrestling Tees, Nick?
I tell people all the time, like, I don't get it. I know, look, they don't tell you can't make your own shirts and sell them at thing and all. I'm not telling you not to. How many 5X
shirts do y'all carry? How many 5X shirts do y'all carry at every show? None. I need a 5X shirt. The shirts from Pro Wrestling Tees are top quality. I wear them every day. The only reason I don't have one shirt on right now is because I did something and I couldn't use a shirt with a logo for it. So that's why I've got this one on. I always wear Pro Wrestling T-shirts almost everywhere I go. Great shirts, great quality. Bring your shirts to shows. If you need somebody to print them, get them from Pro Wrestling Tees. If you don't, get them printed locally and just sell them.
I'm all about printing them locally, supporting somebody locally, and getting them, the ones that you sell. But instead of wondering, because they could say, hey, next time bring me a 4X or something, and you don't have one or something. Yeah. Or guess what? I need a kid small. Yeah. And you're like, I don't make those. You could literally take their money on your phone with PayPal or something, literally order it from Pro Wrestling Tees and ship it straight to them, and you've got the sale.
Yeah. It's a no-brainer.
I know they've lifted. There used to be a lot of restrictions, like you had to have so many social media files. I think they've loosened up on that a little bit, so check them out at ProWrestlingTees.com.
You don't have to
need a store.
Inventory.
No.
How smart is that? If you don't maintain inventory, you don't have to keep a bunch of shirts in your trunk.
Look, if we put your video up on our channel and somebody in Portland, Oregon sees it and they're like, oh, dude, they see your shirt that you ran out to the ring in and they like it, they could go to Pro Wrestling Tees and buy it. They're not going to see you at a show. Keep that in mind. That's our logic. Anyway, look, let's get into this weekend because we still got to talk about that other stuff when we're wrapped up. Again, we are going to talk about the event stuff after the Indy talk and after the clear defining break will be when we talk about YouTube and the podcast thing. We're going to head down that road. But look, it's a loaded weekend. It's going to start on Friday. And look, it's the first Friday There's only one place to be, and that is Canton, Georgia.
Attention wrestling fans, join us live at the Action Building in Canton, Georgia, Friday, February 2nd for SHW 59. The undisputed IWTV Independent Wrestling World Championship will once again be defended inside of a Southern Honor ring as the Atrocity Cruel defends against the mysterious and enigmatic TNA star Suicide. We'll hear from the People's Captain Gunnar Miller and witness the in-ring debut of the 7'3" giant known as Chosen. And in our main event, it's Tag Team Turmoil. 4 teams enter the ring, and after one has been eliminated, the Hierarchy will join the match to defend their SHW Tag Team titles in fatal 4-way actions. Plus, Jake the Snake Legacy Championship Day, Cody Fluffman, Kyle Matthews, Adam Priest, and more. Tickets start at just $15 and go on sale at the door the night of the show beginning at 5 p.m. Doors open at 7, bell time at 8. As always, kids 10 and under are free. Come see firsthand why we are SHW, and this is our wrestling.
That's right, man.
Wow.
We will be there on Friday at Southern Honor Wrestling.
Nobody has videos like that. Nobody makes commercials like that. That's like WWE level commercials. Man, I'm so excited to get to that show now.
Yeah,
Dude,
I mean, look,
did you see that card?
dude, yeah, there's tons of stuff going on. Look, it's Cruel defending the IWTV title against Suicide. I mean, it's somebody, 2 guys that you can see all over the country now,
can't wait.
and you're going to be able to see them right there at Southern
Y'all
Honor in
better,
Canton.
y'all better not get there before me and get those Cruel action figures. Okay,
Yeah, we'll get a couple. I do owe Mason one, so that'll be, which we'll talk a little bit about Masons in a minute. So yeah, Cruel versus Suicide, the 4-way. It's going to be what do they call it? Oh, geez,
the Coven of the Goat,
the Covenant of the Goat. Yes,
the CT Keys and Nick Halen
of the end game. Yep,
end game, and then the Grapplers. The Grapplers are actually my favorite tag team in Georgia. Love those guys. I love that gimmick. That's one of the oldest gimmicks. And then after one elimination, the Hierarchy goes in.
Yep,
that's nuts, Nick. That's nuts. That match is going to be phenomenal. Excited for Chip Day of CB Suave. This is going to be another wonderful match. Those 2 guys are great.
I'm going to throw this in here real quick. CB Suave, one of the most entertaining individuals you'll see at a show. I will tell you that 100%. Looking forward to. I know this year he's supposed to be really kind of focusing and getting like another strong push around the state. I've seen him already on posters for several promotions. I think he's, matter of fact, isn't he working? He worked. Well, no, we saw him at Southern.
Him Sunday at Southern States Pro.
Yeah, so lots of stuff going there. But look, sorry about your damn luck of drawing Chip Day. In that Jake the Snake Legacy title. Chip Day's he's on fire right now. He's an absolute stud. Still the measuring stick. That's what I'm gonna. My new nickname for him is the measuring stick. If you want to find out where you stand in Georgia wrestling, it's Chip Day right now.
Match of the year last year. Yeah. I mean, Chip has always been a fan of Chip Day since the first time we saw him.
Yeah. Adam Priest is coming in with Matt Griffin. Oh, yeah. To wrestle Kyle Matthews. That should be a clinic.
Yeah.
I saw Gary Lamb's post about like those 2 matches, the Chip Day CB Suave and the Adam Priest and the Kyle Matthews match. It's a back and forth of which one could steal the show. I'm right there with him. This is a tough one to call between those 2. But hopefully though, Kyle Matthews can tie up Adam Priest enough that Cruel can finally get his hand on Matt Griffin. That would be awesome to see at this point. The Chosen's going to debut, 7'3". Gunnar Miller's going to appear. He's going to address Todd Sexton.
Jesus.
Whole lot more this Friday in the Action Building. Bell time is 8. Doors open at 7. Right there at the Action Building there in Canton, Georgia. Then Saturday, we'll stroll on out to Monroe. Southern Fried
Championship Wrestling. Oh, good old fashioned Southern Wrestling, man. Such a great card. The Happy Madness card, the Madness match between the Grapplers and Happy Madness. My second night with Sal Renaro. Man, how nuts is that? Do you see Sal Renaro 3 nights in a row? Oh, God. Man, look at this card. You're going to get everything. Kenway and Hunter James. I love Hunter James. Lev versus Cross. That's going to be a phenomenal match. Look at the whole card. You got the Madness and the Grapplers like we talked about. CT Keys versus all three members of the Approved.
Yep, it's a handicap match. Yeah.
Ooh. Bucket Ashworth with Caution and Jason Carter. That's a great one right there. I am super excited to see this card. I always like going out to Monroe.
Southern Fried's always a good time. It's always fun. Check them out at 405 Community Court there in Monroe, Georgia. Yes, folks, I have memorized addresses, which is not normal for me.
Oh, yeah.
So 405 Community Court in Monroe. Check out Southern Fried Championship Wrestling on Saturday. Yes. That one is 7 o'clock.
Yes, 6 o'clock, doors open, 7 o'clock bell time.
Yep, that is true. Then on Sunday, so here's the problem. I know Friday and Sunday are 100%. Saturday, there's some stuff that like might interfere with some family stuff, but I'm hoping I can make both.
I'm going to Friday and Saturday definitely, and if I have the strength, I'm going to go to Sunday because I'm old, folks, old and fat.
Well, here's the kicker. Might motivate you. Heath is driving in for Southern States Pro on Sunday.
Okay, it's always good to see Heath.
Yeah,
he's a good guy, our new contributor. Great guy. He's always good to talk to. And the Jimmy Rave Cup, Southern States Pro, Monkey Ridge Brewery in Swanee. Great venue. Bell time is at 6 o'clock.
Dude, listen to this. Listen to these participants, man. I want you to hear this. Martin Stone, Bryce Cannon, Chip Day, Sal Renaro, Joe Black, the Kenway. I'm always going to call him Duncan Mitchell. I don't know why. He can change his name all he wants, but Duncan. So it's Duncan.
I think that's his real name.
Yeah. Carly Bravo, Caleb Conley, Ashton Starr, Aaron Dallas, and then they're going to have a wild card in there as well.
Did you get Martin Stone in there?
I did. Yeah, I started with him.
Martin Stone.
I typed him twice by mistake. But
wow. The wild card. Who's going to be the wild card, man?
Look, we're gonna find out, man. That's one of those things you got to be there, right there at the Monkey Wrench Brewery in there in Swanee.
And that's just 5 minutes from my house.
Yeah,
it's right next to 85 too, folks. So if you're traveling all over Georgia, right next to 85, it's like a mile off 85. So it could not be easier. Satellite Boulevard, right there.
So definitely, hopefully, to see you there on Sunday. So again, loaded weekend.
I really want to get a picture with him every night so I could have proof I went to see.
We'll make that happen. We'll make that happen. So the missions this week is get Mason a cruel figure, get you a cruel figure apparently.
I will get a
and
cruel
then
figure.
Pictures with Sal at all three events. That's the goal. Look, some other bonus stuff. Look, we talked about the Georgia show. Look, this week's going to come out immediately as soon as I get recording out. But then going forward, it will be behind the paywall. Either on YouTube or on our Patreon channels. YouTube.com, Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast channel at Tapped Out Pod, of course, is the handle there. Look, I haven't decided yet. I think I'm going to add it to the podcast feed. We'll see. I probably will. I just can't see a reason not to. So if you are a podcast, make sure you're subscribing to, if you're a podcast listener, on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeart, Amazon Music, all the good stuff, anywhere and everywhere there's a podcast platform. Make sure you're subscribing because that's going to be added to the feed soon enough. Look, we're not going to talk about this a lot.
I love that, Nick. We're like, where's your podcast at? And I'm like,
everywhere.
Where is it? It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Okay. Well, are you ready, Nick?
Look, it's going to be tough. I will say this is going to be tough, but let's go ahead and dive in. Look, we're going to talk the event stuff.
We're basically looking at our childhood.
Yeah.
We're looking at the guy in the blue sports coat from Coliseum Video.
Yeah. But hey, before we go down the rabbit hole, I want to say, look, we're about to talk about the event stuff. Look, we know a lot of people are uncomfortable with it. We totally get it. If you want to stop,
with it.
I agree, me too. But I feel like it deserves it. It's got to be talked about a little bit because it's just some of the biggest news, obviously, in wrestling. If you don't want to hear about all of the accusations, the claims, and you could stop now and you're good. We totally get it. Now, so here we're going to talk about. I wanted to pause for a second there just to make sure. I actually read the 67 pages as well.
I did.
Here's the crazy part. I did it, and the second I finished it, I completely regretted it. I wished I hadn't. To be honest with you, it's horrible. It's disturbing. It's uncomfortable as it gets. I mean, it's just really, really bad.
I've read every single post that I've seen about it online. Are all the garbage posts online anything comparable to the actual?
Not even close. Because here's the thing. It's one thing. People like telling you what they read is one version of it. And I'm like, yeah, I promise you're getting a watered down version of what was in these texts. And unfortunately for me, I don't even understand why. I was speaking to somebody this morning about it, and it was ironic that we both said the same thing. We read those texts, and for some reason, we read it in the Vince McMahon voice that we've heard 100, like the caricature voice. So that's what I literally heard him saying it as I was reading them.
Oh my God.
Super disturbing, because here's the problem we face as fans. Vince McMahon created the WWE, WWF, WWE, all of the things. The reason we all the reason we do these podcasts, and look, I know this is true, whether you're listening to 83 Weeks or My World with Jeff Jarrett or even our little old podcast that we do here, we do it because Vince McMahon created a world that created the WWF, WWE, and look, I know he didn't start it, he just made it, right? I mean, he made it.
Well, I mean, he didn't start wrestling. There were so many other different wrestling. I watched Continental growing up. There were all kind of different wrestlings. Vince did the closest thing to making wrestling mainstream.
No, he did make it. He made it mainstream. That's the difference.
He put it on your network television instead of your local independent channels.
All of these things that you loved in WWE, WWF/WWE over time, now we look at it and go like, it was created by somebody who did, or allegedly did, the 67 pages that I read.
Absolute
and I'm like,
power corrupts absolutely.
100%. That's true. But look, I want to talk a couple things of like, I understand that most people are like, what about WWE, WWE? I'm like, dude, how about this? How about his family, his friends? His company is a thing, and I understand that, and a lot of people are concerned. Like, when I say friends and family and employees, the damage it's going to cause to them.
Oh, my God.
Like, typically, I always say the damage you do to yourself is self-inflicted.
Yeah.
But the damage you consequently do to other people, that's the hard part. And look, it coming out has created this issue with Brock Lesnar, John Laurinaitis. I mean, it is a multitude of things that just...
Well, even the stories about Shane. Remember how big a wrestler Shane was there for a while? Shane was on all the pay-per-views as a character, and then you hear Shane had to get out. You don't see Stephanie anymore. She's a spouse of Triple H. But I don't know what it did to his family. Imagine my dad cheated on my mom, and it. Yeah, but I didn't ever hear anything this bad.
Okay, yeah, because hold on. I'll tell you this. This is my thing. Cheating's bad, but it ain't this.
No.
And that's the thing. Like, I always tell people, like, I don't excuse it, and I never have. Trust me, we've all lived down this. We've had friends, family, whatever, that were affected by that type of thing. This ain't that. This is to the nth degree worse. I mean, it is just terrible. The accusation. Like, I'm not going to get into what the details were, but it is bad. And
it hurt this woman that was involved. It might have hurt 100%. And there were how many dollars in non-disclosures you said?
Look, it gets complicated, because that was where I was going. Like, if you think this is the only shoe to drop, you've lost your mind. Because again, we talked about what you brought up. There was $12 million that have said to have been paid out. She said she was owed $3 million. Okay, last time I checked, that meant there was $9 million that's not accounted for from a person. So there's probably more. Now, the problem is if they were paid their entire amount, they weren't. Like, this one's coming out forward because she's like, I was told I was going to be paid $3 million, I was only paid $1 million, et cetera, et cetera. Here's my plea. Settle. And it has nothing to do with business. I'm saying settle for this young lady's good. Do not drag her through depositions and courts and all that. Settle whatever it takes to make her happy. And I don't mean happy like, you know what I mean. Make her a settlement that she's happy with.
You can't ever Yeah, you'll
No.
never heal the damages that are done.
Yeah.
You'll never be able to reverse all of this horrible stuff. And there's probably, as you said, people that are also went through the same thing. You'll never solve it with money.
I start with don't do it with her. Don't do this to her.
Yeah.
Don't do this to your family. I mean, look, it was brought up on 83 Weeks, and I just stuff you don't even think about. Brock Lesnar's daughter's in college now. She was making a name for herself as an athlete.
Yeah.
Now she's got to listen to this. Shane McMahon's son is a freshman in college and playing football and stuff. He's got to answer to this crap about his grandfather. Like, look, we have kids, and we know how kids can be. Like, trust me, this isn't going to be. My thing is, get your ego out of the way, settle this so you don't drag her first and your family second through all of this bullshit.
Laurinaitis is married to the Bella twins' mother. Didn't you say she was sick? Like
she had health issues that she's going to have to deal with this. It's a total
so
everybody
is just going to get totally damaged. And the damage, you can't care about the damages to Vince and all this stuff. He needs to get his ego. All these people need to put their ego out of the way and just get this. And Vince needs to go. Vince needs to go.
Oh, I think he's done. Yeah, he is done. He'll never be a public because.
But Benoit him? We can't Benoit everything he's done because he was the face of it so much.
Time will tell, man. I think that's one we're going to have to see. I mean, if it were up to you, tappedoutpod@gmail.com, would you Benoit him? Like, because how do you take out Vince McMahon out of the Attitude Era when literally a bulk of the show was centered around him? I mean, a 3-hour Raw is probably like an hour and a half at that point. And a 2-hour Raw is probably less than an hour if you take out, because you got to take out all of the him and Austin stuff, all of the him and Taker stuff. I mean, on and on and on. Like, if you just wipe out Vince McMahon completely out of old content, like, what do you have left on some of it in that era? Later on, you're good.
Well, he did commentary for how many shows?
That's my point. Yeah, in the old days, he was on commentary. It's like when Raw first started, he was on commentary. It's like, what do you do? I mean, it's just rough. I don't know how you can. But, so, yeah, I'm with you. I think, look, the settlement thing is just this stuff's not going away, but I always say time, and look, I know everybody doesn't agree with what I'm about to say, but time, prayer, therapy, those things are what like help people move from, to get through to the other side. And that's where I'm like, the longer this drags out, that process can't start until the process is over. End it.
Well,
I don't give a shit if she cuts her a check for $100 million. Dude, you just sold like $600 million or whatever it was, and $700 or $800 million in stock. Cut her a check for $100 million and go away.
Well, think about it. You have grandkids. I'm going to have grandkids one day. We're going to have to explain to our grandkids what happened to Vince McMahon. It's going to come out. It's never going to leave the internet.
Yeah.
What he did, that's fucking horrible.
Now, here's the thing, and you're right. Time will tell how this thing progresses. I'm just hoping that we can get to a point where, people can start healing from it, I guess is the word.
There's no good part of this. Even if you take all the sensationalism out, it's still horrible.
Mm-hmm.
The base accusations are horrible. There's no way around this. You were saying about The Rock on the board now. What were your? And then we talked about Taylor Swift. Who was the biggest person we talked about fixing companies in the past?
Oh, look, Conrad Thompson brought up an excellent point that I'm not gonna lie to you. I probably never would have thought of it.
Mm-hmm.
Rock being put on the board. Here's my hypothetical. Look, I say this as a hypothetical. I'm not getting into like how long people knew, but I'm going to tell you this. When the decision to put Rock on the board, I think they knew at that point. You put Rock on the board. By the way, let's do the timeline. The Netflix thing's announced. Rock's put on the board. Then the claims come out a couple days later, and then Vince is off of the board. Because when Rock got on the board, I went, hey, how did he get on the board? Like, why did they create an extra seat? No, they knew a seat was coming available. Let's go with that. How about that? They probably were saying they were adding a seat, but that ain't what was happening. They knew one was about to empty out. The other thing is, we discussed this. You know what? I don't want to do this. We were going to talk about the Netflix and this. I just don't think it's right. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to leave this alone. Maybe another week. I honestly have talked myself completely out of it because I don't think it's appropriate. But Rock becoming a person and to face, Vince, go away. We're going to Shaq. Like they did with Papa John's. They made Shaq their spokesperson. Rock's going to probably become the face of the WWE as far as the spokesman and stuff with WWE. Because look, he will speak to that base. They will love him. The masses love him. And he will basically say he is basically replacing Vince McMahon as far as the face of the company.
You had to remind me there was an actual Papa John.
Okay? Right. Yeah. There was.
2, you had to remind me what Papa John did.
Right.
So that means that was successful.
I just, from the stake of time heals wounds, time, energy, prayers, therapy, all of those things heal wounds. And I'm ready to get this past us in the sense of so we can say, well, I meant just from like for her sake. I'm going for her. And then the fandom, like, look, the longer Vince is gone, the less is attached to the WWE.
We have to get rid of Vince. I'm not saying play like he never existed because you can't do that, but you have to cut every single tie you can.
I agree. So, all right, we're going to end it there. Like I said, I just don't like it. Doesn't get any better. I knew people were going to be like, "Hey, you didn't discuss it at all." I'm like, "Look, we did." Obviously, you can tell. Like, I wanted to end it this way because I knew I'd be done. Like, I'm so uncomfortable talking about all of this.
Yeah.
I regret that I ever read the 67 pages. I mean, it's just ugly and horrible. And I'm like, look, I hope she does okay. But I just want to move. Like, I'm ready. Like, hey, look, take care of her, help her get the help she needs, and and let's move on from this. So,
I don't like
anyway. That's all I have. I'm like, I'm done. That's all I have. Do you got anything else, man?
I'm exhausted. I'd probably need to take a nap.
So, well, what's the old saying, brother? If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
It's time to tap out.